just steering this press conference and nothing more. Dolphy D'Souza and I together, along with Father Fraser and Khalid Deshmukh, we set up this platform called Vote for Democracy, just to concern with voter registration, voter awareness, and constant liaison with the CEO, Election Commission Maharashtra, to ensure some transparency and accountability during the polls. Before I hand over first to Mr. Devasayam, I just like to ask the question that what was the need for this motley group of us to do this? What was the need to do this at all? All of us are activists in our own right, many other things. And the answer is very, very simple. It was to question authority, bearing the full responsibility of citizenship rights guaranteed to us under the Indian Constitution, and ensure some degree of accountability. To prise open and throw light on the dark, opaque functioning of institutions like the Election Commission of India that have increasingly functioned with callous, even arrogant obduracy, providing no answers to the questions and suspicions raised by the Indian people. I'll just flag 3 or 4 issues before I hand over to Mr. Devasayam. We cannot ignore or forget the manner in which the present Election Commission was constituted and appointed, in gross violation of the Supreme Court order of November 2023. I won't go into details there because that is just the background. We cannot argue about, we cannot afford to forget the absolutely low level of speeches made during the election campaign that were gross violations of the Representation of People's Act and the Model Code of Conduct by the star campaigners of the ruling party. And citizens, 20,000 signatories, complained to the Election Commission of the most divisive of such speeches made in Banswara, Rajasthan. But however, no serious action was undertaken on those speeches. Then we go on to several ground level field reports coming out from our Mumbai Northwest while the election is taken while the actual election is being conducted on May 20th. We see the manner in which the returning officer behaves, the lack of observance of the basic rules in the counting center. We saw what happened in Karimganj, Assam. We saw what happened in Jaipur Rural. We saw what happened in Farrukhabad, Uttar Pradesh. And there are at least 18 such constituencies where there were ground level documentation of gross misdemeanors which were reported by the media and were complained to before the commission, but no steps were taken. And finally, what led to this report was the absolutely shocking figures and the non-transparency with which the figures clearly appear to have been increased when the voting percentage declared on the day of polling, 7 to 8:45 p.m. and those declared sometimes 3 days, sometimes 5 days, sometimes 11 days later, went through a huge increase from a minimum of something like 3.44%, if I'm not mistaken, 12.52% in Andhra Pradesh and 12.42% in Odisha. Now, what do these numbers mean when in previous elections you never saw an increase of more than 1%? That's what all this exercise has been about, and I don't want to now say any more except hand over to Mr. Devasayam.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry I couldn't do this physically. I had good ticket and I was glad in the morning. But because of this scary advisories that we have received over the day, floods and flight cancellations, I had to develop a to cancel it to the family. But I am participating on that. It's something more interesting than the physical today. So, Krishna and her team have done an excellent job. In a matter of 1 or 2 weeks, they have come out with a fabulous report outlining exactly what is rotten in the electoral system. I have been working on it for quite some time, 15 years. And ever since the EVA went out, because I have continued international in India, to find out and find out what exactly is it. Because people like us, I have several elections during my service in the government. That was during there was physical advance. And with respect to EVM, we were all mystified. Trying to understand. They say already not technology, it's not technology. So technology is excellent. There are something like democracy principles. That the election is not just a trade union electing a trade union president and Election is transfer of sovereignty by the citizen to her representative. Her representative for some years, 5 years, the voter in the democratic India, you know, we are the people, we are the citizens. And the exercise in democracy is purely a transfer of sovereignty for 5 years. So it's a very sacred and noble. It's not a mechanical exercise. So there are certain basic fundamental democratic principles which say that the voters, the sovereign, must know herself, her own mind, her own knowledge, that her vote was cast as pre-educated and recorded as it was cast, counted as it was recorded. These basic principles, she should know, the voter should know, not the machine. Machine may be the best thing ever there. I am not telling it because you will be hearing Professor Harris Karnik later, one of the top technical experts in the country, and we have a management expert sitting here, Professor Sebastian, one of the top management experts in the country. They will be able to tell you. I have an administrative experience. So, but as a citizen I am not talking, that I must know my own knowledge, whether my vote has been cast as a integrity, whether it was recorded as it was cast, or whether it was counted as it was recorded. I should know. If it is not there, it is a false election. Paper ballot, all these things are available. I could see the name in the ballot paper, stamp it, see it again, put it in the box, and my representative was present when the counting was done. Now, none of these are available. Machine is beautiful. Machine cannot be hacked. Machine is the best in the world, blah, 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 blah. Indian machine, manufactured in Mahabharata time. American machine may be bad. I am not bothered about these problems. I don't know anything about machine. I am a student of economics. But I am asked, this fundamental question I am asking for the last 7 years, started in 2004. My good friend, T.S. Krishnamurthy was still elected commissioner. He wrote a detailed letter. Then, of course, since I was not taken in person, I did not follow it. In 2009 again, the letter came up. Then back before the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court was convinced, yes, there is some problem. People like they were talking sense. So, how to do? How to verify? How to provide this verification? So, verification provision was provided. 2013, when the man went to the Supreme Court, Subramanian Swami as Vice President, notice was issued to the Election Commission. And Election Commission of India at that time, again, another very good friend of mine, my colleague, Paresi was the Election Commission. We need to be in touch with each other. They said, all right, we'll find a solution. We'll bring this VV back, voter verifiable paper audit trail. Voter verifiable paper audit trail. So Supreme Court judgment was very clear. You've got to provide full end-to-end verifiability. The one I talked about the paper ballot earlier, end-to-end verifiability. And it was brought in, then it was attacked in 2019 to every vote. But election commission started committing fraud. From that time onwards, there's an order will show you, they converted the VVPAT into an ordinary kind of, and something drops inside, and we will not count. They refused to count the VVPAT in. That is where the whole problem started. And they came with all kinds of excuses, machine you must believe the machine, you must believe the election. I said, all Baba, we will come. But we have to verify. Anyway, to cut it short, this has been pestering for quite some time. And why we have done this exercise? It's a brief we told you. Why we have done this exercise? From the very beginning, the last 5-6 years, with the behavior of the Election Commission of India, we developed serious suspicion about the integrity of the service. EVM is only one important part. There are many other aspects also. So we have been keeping a track. We have been trying to talk to the Election Commission of India, but they will never even respond. They have sealed the Election Commission of India, hermetically sealed. Starting from 2019, Election Commission was just not approached you. You could not even walk within the gate. And they sat themselves in imperial majesty. जो हम कहते हैं वो ठीक है, हमारा trust करो, and they go to Supreme Court saying that they have trusted, they have trusted machine, and Supreme Court saying you trust the machine, and everything is all right. So the question is that you fraud has taken place. Now coming to the present 2024 election. Now first of all, as Sir mentioned, the Election Commission of required just 2 days before, 2 new members of the party, the executive chair of the Election Commission, and it was totally partisan, brazen violation of the Supreme Court judgment, and they appointed their own people, henchmen as well. Then what they do, they violate the fundamental legal provision. As per, you will all be surprised, you should not be surprised, because that's the problem with India media. Even now, under the representation of people that India's voting system is paper ballot. Period. I am emphatically saying that. Please read section 159 of the Representation of People's Act. Clearly says, shall be declared. In section A, an amendment was brought in 1992. It is a default option. If it is not possible for some reason, in certain constituencies, to conduct election by paper ballot, Election Commission is enabled to do it through electronic voting. Further, they have issued notification. Constitutional notification they must issue before announcing the election. And why they could not do it through paper ballot? That notification was not issued. So it is up initio, this election is illegal. Then you go on to what happened as the voting system that happened. People went to the Supreme Court, they could have went to the Supreme Court, if you found the very best thing, ever will fall. We will go to 3 college 10, primitive 10, we will become, and Supreme Court said, oh, we are technology very advanced, much more advanced in Germany, throughout throughout India. And you must stick to, so and then this happened. Then how election starts, they will not tell you the number of people who voted. Just be the practice along. I mean, within as the election is in progress, information is given. And these days, with the advancement of technology, minute to minute information. To those election commission, with the dedicated team, so by the evening they have full information. They said, we will refuse, we will not give you. Form 17C. 17C is the only valid proof of the total number of votes polled in a particular booth. As recorded, it must be signed by the presiding officer included. That is that's a holy document. It's a sacred document. But actually, it's a very costly affair. These days, nobody works for free. You have to pay at least about 1,000 rupees or something like that for each agent. 2,000 polling booths. If 2,000 polling booths you have to engage, at least 2 people will spend about 50 lakhs. Many people cannot afford. But the Election Commission knows that many people do not have Form 17C, but they are using the Form 17C. They are using the returning officers not to supply. So they will not give Form 17C. They will not tell you the number of people vote, and also they will give you percentage. And further, mass will increase in what percentage? Mass will increase. all the other going to the material is going to go. I would just say, running into 12 to 13% in some case. That gives you a report. On average, about 5% variation, 6% variation, 12% variation. And then they made calculation on our removing this other field, made calculation. Based on that, in about 79 constituencies, states, 7 states, that I did with history. The development is the pump, tap, we call it spurious injection. When there is no end-to-end variability, according to experts, spurious injection amount is very much possible. What does happen this time is, selective spurious injection amount in about 80 constituencies. That is where all the difference between the creative, who is doing it. 80 constituencies, we are able to find out. What has been presented before you, I am a little brief, I will close that and take a look later. What we are trying to tell you is, we have created circumstantial evidence. For any crime, as you know, there are two ways of proving. Circumstantial evidence and direct evidence. There are many crimes where there is no direct evidence. Circumstantial evidence is, then is the job of the investigating agency through experts, through forensic means, to find out the real truth and analyze the evidence. We, as citizens of India, have provided through this report circumstantial evidence that the mandate of the people have been followed in at least 80 constituencies. Period. Now it is a job. We have sent a notice. We have used the word notice deliberately. Because the election commission comes to feeling the election is meant for only political party. Who is again between the political party and the election commission? They totally ignore the people of India. Instead, we have put them on notice. No, the election is for the people of India. These are the things that we have observed. About 10 points. Very, very serious kind of violation. Both legal violation, constitutional violation, and now it is your job to thoroughly investigate. And also, order, you must countermand the there is a provision in the Constitution of India and in the law submitted to that to countermand the elections. If there is a book captain, we say there is constitutional captain in there, full constitutional captain. So that's what we are told. And finally, one more point I would like to make, more example. See, under the EVM system, the Election Commission has completely lost its control. Completely, totally, under the paper ballot, we had total control. The box was done in front of the returning officer and the electoral officer, and the printing was done, everything was done. Now, some factory is manufacturing it, which is under the control of the minister, and the board of directors full of BJP people, ECA and BEL, and then what happens is no one knows. They don't consult anything at all. And the fun of it is, some RPI were issued, and we were told, if the election commission does not have the list of returning officers below, and the returning officers all employed on deputation to the election commission, all the people who are conducting the election on behalf of the election commission of India, and they don't have the list of returning officers. Does it mean that somebody else is conducting the election? Then there is another advocate of the Supreme Court who has got video record, the recording. And most of the manuals that have been issued by the Election Commission of India, the Supreme Court believes, so not been followed at all, not even implemented at all. So these are the points that I have to make. So what we want to say is, I am concluding now, what we want to say is, people have understood their rights. They want to exert their rights. And it is now the Election Commission to respond to the demand given by the Election of India and go for a full investigation and countermand the election and make it free and fair so that India has a democracy not only in name and also in substance also. Instead of just calling it openly saying that we are the mother of democracy, we are the father of democracy. This kind of way from top, we must become real democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. But please forgive us for that. We are sure that after the next speaker, it will be fine. We have Professor Sebastian Morris. Like I already introduced him, I will introduce again, former faculty IIM Ahmedabad and also member of the independent panel for monitoring of India's elections. Professor Morris.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here and kind of releasing the release of the report card, the report on the conduct of the Lok Sabha elections done by the Vote for Democracy organization, along with the large number of organizations that were done. So before I come to some of the salient features of the report, I would like to kind of come to the point of why this report is extraordinarily important. And to lead to that, let me give you a very brief historical context on what has been happening. India, as you know, is a great democracy. There is no doubt about it. However, the question is what has happened in recent times. Now, if you really look at it, what is democracy? It's not just government of the people, by the people, and for the people. You need to have a constitutional framework, there are strong institutions, and there are people who occupy these institutional positions who behave responsibly. So if you see, over the last several years, a couple of decades, maybe a little more, one would think that the institutions have been under attack, positions have been corrupted, and including, I would think, perhaps the judiciary and key positions. Okay? However, all of that, is still not going to let us say, democracy tumble if the electoral process is not badly chewed up. Yes, we may not enjoy democracy right now, but it's not something that can be taken away from us as long as elections are free and fair. Because one would like to believe that people will ultimately be democratic, be inclusive, and so on, as they experience the ill effects of being violent, of being arbitrary, of institutional decline, and so on. Okay. So therefore, the role of the Election Commission and the electoral process is extraordinarily important. Okay. So my kind of, let us say, involvement in this area came from my analysis of EVMs. Okay? And what electronic voting can do, and what are the risks in electronic voting. So that is what I will spend a moment upon, and then I will come to the results of this report, which I think are extraordinarily important because they take the debate much deeper. Okay? Now, first of all, electronic voting machines. Essentially, to cut through the entire, debate, it's not something really, something which only technical people can understand. Technical people are required in order to make a deeper critique, but at a fundamental level, all of us can understand why electronic machines are highly problematic, at least thus far. And the reason is extraordinarily simple. If you have paper ballots, things can go wrong. But when things go wrong, they are children We go wrong here, a ballot box gets seized, somebody here doesn't do it properly, and so on. So increasingly, you can have control over it. It's kind of random unless we are in a banana republic where there's a coordinated attempt to the quad election, which is like Pakistan or banana republic. But in India, at least, we have taken paper ballots to a point where they were fair and correct. To a large extent, yes, booth capture happened here or there, but the election could be countermanded and you could do it again. So in other words, with the paper ballot, the probability that you can have a global event, where the entire vote of the country gets, hijacked, is practically very negligible. Okay. However, in electronic voting, if there is a bias in all the machines to favor a particular person or a particular party, and that can be easily done, is what is the technical contention that many of us have. Okay. Then, if a 5% bias is exercised by all voting machines in favor of, let us say, party A, then forever Indians can be cheated out of democracy, even though they did not vote against democracy. Okay. You get the point? At least in Germany, when Hitler happened, people actually voted for Hitler. Okay. But without voting for, whatever else, we may lose our democracy. And that is where the danger is. Institutions can decline, but as long as people get the freedom to vote and the votes are fair and fine and do not have this problem, it's okay. So the question that I'm going to ask is, and I've posed it and answered it, humans should have no business choosing something which has a low probability of going wrong, but when it goes wrong, the impacts are, more than earth-shattering. If India, kind of sleepwalks out of democracy, it's a great tragedy for the whole world. After all, recognize that one of the greatest political achievements in the world in the 20th century was India going independent and India remaining democratic against all odds. Okay? So it's extraordinarily important for the election commission, for anybody concerned with democracy, to respond when people point out obvious errors in the whole process. What is that process? Let me just describe it. There is a process which the ECI controls, which is up to a certain level, which is the case control. After that, the entire process is managed by the two public sector undertakings and their vendors. Okay? And we all know that public sector undertakings don't have any great autonomy. They are not statutorily autonomous organizations. They can be influenced. And on the boards of the ECIL and on the boards of the Electronics Corporation of India and of the BJP party. Okay? Now, one of the challenges of election in any democracy is that the state has to conduct the elections in some way, right? However, the state has a vested interest in trying to push the elections in its favor. And when it is in the seat, it has that. So this is a problem in the democracy because you can't call others to do it. So how do democracies solve it? They create simple, easy, well understood, highly independent election commissions which then conduct elections. And we were on the right track, we did that. Now the whole thing is being obfuscated, perhaps in a globalist. Okay? The problem with the EVM is that you can plant a bug very easily through the ECIL, through the BEL, through the vendors, and in other ways. And there is the election commission depends on them on trust and nothing else. Okay, so I trust you. Now that is okay if I am running a tiny organization. I say, hey, I trust you as an accountant. But that's not what we want. The ECI cannot say that I trust. Okay, we are all good people. I want the processes to be such that they are sound, and you find that they are not. Okay, this is what attracted me to the whole thing. And I have argued elsewhere, I don't want to go into it, on how the EVMs can be very easily corrupted. Essentially, the challenge is to feed the information of who is the favored candidate. And this can be done through the VVPATs, as has been pointed out by several people outside, including Gopinath. And there is another way through the pattern of voting which can be used. Okay? Suppose, for instance, the first 3 votes out of 5 cast are in favor of party A. Okay? Then the machine can easily identify that party A, or the 4th candidate who occupies the favored position, is actually the favored candidate, and the votes can be shifted in its favor. Okay? So all that the leader has to do is urge his followers to be the first in every voting process and vote. That's one method. The other is through the VVPAT, because the symbol loading unit can actually work on the VVPAT and pass on the information. It's after all just a serial connectivity between the two, and two-way serial connections are possible. So the ECI has not responded to any of these queries which many of us have presented. Okay? The only thing it has said is trust. So, finally, the point I'm trying to make is, if there is a 5% bias which can be exercised in all the machines, you know which way it's going to go. Okay? I'm not saying that the government has done it. It could have been a foreign party. Okay? But the point I'm trying to make is, should we open the door or should we not worry about this? Okay? Now comes a report, and I'll spend more time on the report because that's what we are doing right now, which clearly brings out the following. Okay? The behavior of the ECI is highly suspicious. Does it surprise me? No. Because the very appointment of the ECI was violative of the principle of independence and autonomy from government. If the ECI is to have any autonomy, it's first and foremost from the government. Because the government of the day, as I said, has a deep interest in ensuring or giving a push in its favor through the process. So the first thing on which it fails, is the report brings out, is that the appointment was not quite what one would say, let us say world class. Okay? In fact, it's basically the Prime Minister himself was decided, okay, for all practical purposes. Then the behavior of the ECI, and that the report documents at length. And I'm sure there's a lot more out there because the report had to be done in a hurry, which clearly brings out the bias as exhibited by the ECI. Okay? It is in terms of violation of the model code of conduct, because that will apply to government. Nothing was said about the violation of the model code of conduct. There is not an iota of let us say, of intervention to worry about how much money was spent by whom. Okay? There is all kinds of abuse and foul language and improper ways of campaigning went on. I won't get into it, the report has it, and yet there were no interventions. Okay? There may have been only selective interventions, and those have gone against the opposition. Yeah. So, and there have been no response. Now, the interesting thing is, since Indians are worried about democracy, and they kind of, and we all sense that it's on a weak wicket right now, and it wholesale could be toppled. There has been a great deal of response to the, submission to the ECI, to the Election Commission. Please respond. Please tell us what's happening. Nothing. He sits there, without any response. In fact, in one of the YouTube videos which I saw, he's actually gloating and laughing over some of the, dissensions which were made, some of the points which were made, including making a non sequitur that look, when you guys win, you don't raise anything, but when you guys lose, you talk about the EVM. Now that's absurd. Okay? Even with the Indians being biased, particularly strong party could win. Okay? So it's very important to understand the non sequitur nature of this argument, which has gone on in the public. Okay? Suppose if there is a dice, a coin, and let's say you toss it, it's a 50-50 chance, isn't it? But if I load the coin in 5% in favor of X, and I know it, you don't know it, are you willing to use that coin in an extended game? Answer is no. Okay? So now comes the results. So the results point to of this survey. So it has brought out all this, but there is a deep study of the actual data which has been released by the Election Commission, drawn from its site, put together by a number of people, including the Vote for Democracy organization. Okay? And what does it show? It shows for the first time, okay, and literally for the first time in the history of Indian elections, after the introduction of EVMs, which is supposed to speed up processes, after the introduction of internet and very high-speed communication between all of us, okay, that it requires the ECI something like 4 days to square the results on the proportion of people who have voted, on the total votes cast, poll by vote. Okay? Let me assure you that in 1982, okay, when the NDDP, okay, used to organize the cooperatives in India, They had data on how much milk was submitted by each cooperative, within each cooperative, in a matter of 2 days. Okay, by using postcards and telex and what is it, fax and telegrams and that sort of thing. Okay, now this is a smaller problem. Okay? And what they are saying is it requires us 5 days, 6 days to come out with the actual votes. There is something utterly wrong in that, and the ECI owes the country an explanation. Okay? Now, what do these deviances indicate? They indicate the following: that everywhere the voting has gone up. They've gone up somewhere 3.5%, 3.8%, all the way to about 8.4%. Okay? So, in other words, if you actually look at the data, now this is quite stunning. Okay? What we are saying is that India has an electorate of around 976 or leave aside a million people voting, of which, as per the turnout reported initially, about 593 million have voted, but as per the data which came later, 640 or thereabouts million, leaving an increase of close to 46 million. 46 million people who have actually who have increased their, so the total number of votes have suddenly jumped up by 46 million. Now, a detailed analysis of this, constituency by constituency, indicates also, I'm not saying it's a firm conclusion, but it does, lead to a suspicion. What is that suspicion? That if you go by the following analysis, please. So if you go by the margin of victory, and that is what the people who worked on this report have done, then in about 74 to 79 constituencies, okay, the margin of victory has been much smaller than the increase in the voting as reported in the late. So if I consider this 46 million extra votes, as it were, and I distributed as per the data in every constituency where it happened, in as many as 79 constituencies, the margin of victory was less than this increase. Okay? So now the interesting point is, never has this gap been that high. Not only that, never has the period between the two announcements, the final confirmation and the initial confirmation, been so large. Not only that, the Election Commission would have even given an update in between, saying that, okay, we are counting, the message has not come from Jumri Kalaya, let us, once that comes, we'll give you an updated position. But the variation, as you can imagine, would not be more than 1%. Today, it is as high as 12, 14% in some states, in some constituencies. In Maharashtra alone, it is 8.42. And so if you look at the margin of victory in 79 constituencies, it is more than the margin of gap between the first, the victor, and the second. If you look further, and here is where the point is, that this seems to have favored the ruling party. Right? One can't claim this as an absolute truth, because one would like to, because the ruling party may have had a higher propensity to win, etc. One could argue, but even taking those into account, I would think that there is this very strong bias which emerges out here, and it's a real bias. Okay? What I talked about is that bias which has not been revealed. If the EVM is fixed, okay? Going back to the first problem, the funny thing about it is you and me are not going to vote. Whereas if the ballot paper votes are spoiled, you can always have a second election. You can always countermount and do it. So in other words, it shows up. Okay? Whereas an EVM fix will not show up. It's amazing that this has shown up. Now therefore, it points perhaps to a way of fixing which may not be what I said, but which may well be in terms of a program which kind of simply inflates the votes in favor of A or B. Okay. So I'll leave it there. I'll just go through some of the constituencies, where just run through that. In Orissa, for instance, the increase is 12.48%. Maharashtra close to 9, Assam 9, Arunachal 12. The detailed exact figures are there in the report which you'll all get. Karnataka 4, Rajasthan 5.6, Chhattisgarh almost 5, Telangana 4.2, Andhra 12.5, Bihar 3.3, Kerala 6.7, Gujarat 3.37, and so on. And West Bengal 4.83, Haryana 6.4. Okay. Then the report, besides this, the report also has a whole list of complaints which were made by various candidates. Okay. Data reports which would say that the election commission not only did not go through due process of involving polling agents and others, candidates of all parties, but did it, here and there, once in a way, it can happen. When the candidate's agent is not there. But in this case, there was wholesale large numbers of constituencies and candidates who reported that they were just bypassed, okay, and processes were violated. Now, the processes as laid out are actually quite good. Okay? They are very detailed. And Davis have already talked about massive violation in terms of what the court has laid out, and most importantly, what the Representation of the People's Act lays out by the Election Commission. And the Election Commission is doing it in a cavalier manner, almost with aggression, without any sense that it owes an answer. Okay? Even if something fails, it owes an answer. Okay? So that's not. Yeah, so the method is simple. So the method is like this. There is a voting percentage which is in the beginning and a voting percentage at the end. Okay? Knowing the number of people who are on the rolls, you can calculate the total votes polled in the apparently on the EVM at the time when the elections were closed, let's say 7 p.m. And then there is another figure which is the total votes polled as per the ECI being reported from 5 days, 6 days, 7 days later. Okay? And the difference between the two is what actually is revealed. First of all, that difference is too large. Okay? Second, as I said, the difference is coming after too long a period of time, both of which raise suspicions. And third, the patterns in those differences which are such that they are there in those areas where the margin of victory is lower, where the fights were tougher, and the advantage in this kind of very murky business goes to the BJP. Okay? So all these are very important points for us to really ask the question, are we being cheated out of democracy? And if we are cheated, we'll end up rationalizing it by saying, look, many of us did not want it. Okay? Right? Because there's no way to check this out. Okay? Unless the ECI truly becomes independent. So how we fight for that? So the first fight, I think, is to ensure that the election commission is chosen fairly, not the way it is. Right now, the report asks for certain, remedies, or let us say certain further actions from the ECI, okay, which are quite obvious. Tell us why this has happened. Okay? Why did this happen? Give us an explanation.
I just wanted to say Dr. Bharat Patekar has just arrived. He's driven a long way, 700 kilometers, and sir, I can give us a quick time and then I will take this argument further. I just request Dr. Bharat Patekar to also speak on the subject, because for Lok Morcha 2024, apart from one of our senior activists on the field and senior leaders on the field, they have worked very, very hard, I think for over 11 months, to do with ensuring a free and fair election. म्हणजे 2024 निवडणुकीबद्दल ग्राउंड लेवलचं पूर्ण आपलं सर्वे होतं, काम होतं, आणि त्या घेऊन हे रिपोर्ट आता पाहिलं तर आपण प्रेस कॉन्फरन्स टुडे इज बीइंग हेल्ड विथ लोक मोर्चा and vote for democracy together. Dr. Patil.
लोक मोर्चा 2024 हा 4-5 संघटनांचा मिळून एक मोर्चा बनलेला आहे आणि या संघटना बिगर पक्षीय परंतु मास मुवमेंट असलेल्या आहेत. म्हणजे हा NGO नाही तर समाजामध्ये ज्या अनेक चळवळी चालू असतात विविध बेसिक प्रश्नांवर अशा तऱ्हेच्या सोशिओ पॉलिटिकल मुवमेंट्स आहेत आणि त्या मुवमेंटच्या वतीनं आम्ही इथल्या इंडिया आघाडीशी संपर्क साधून निवडणुकीच्या फार पूर्वीच्या टप्प्यापासून या सगळ्या प्रक्रियेमध्ये महाराष्ट्रभर जवळजवळ 17 लोकसभा मतदारसंघामध्ये आमचं योगदान दिलेलं आहे. आणि त्या पार्श्वभूमीवर याच्याकडे जर बघायचं झालं तर एक स्पष्ट आहे की आम्ही जे म्हणत होतो की जे आम्ही तसे या बाबतीतले तज्ज्ञ नाही, परंतु आम्हाला असं दिसत होतं की मताची टक्केवारी नंतर वाढली कशी. यामध्ये एक स्पष्ट आहे की अभ्यासातून त्यांनी आता जे मांडलेलं आहे किंवा ते त्याच्यात त्यांचं लिखाण माझ्या आधी पाठवलं गेलेलं होतं, तर आम्हाला एक स्पष्ट दिसतं की या तऱ्हेनं जर निवडणुका इथून पुढे या पद्धतीनं व्हायला लागल्या तर मग टोटल सगळ्या शीर्ष बाबतीत सुद्धा हे घडू शकतं आणि एका अर्थाने इलेक्शन नावाच्या गोष्टीला काही अर्थ राहणार नाही. आणि म्हणून त्याला वेळीच आवर घालणं आणि जे काही पिटिशन या मंडळींनी सगळ्यांनी केलेलं आहे त्याच्यामध्ये आम्ही सहभागी आहोत तेव्हा यामध्ये काहीतरी निकाल लागला पाहिजे. यातलं दूध का दूध पाणी का पाणी ज्याला म्हणतो आपण तशा तऱ्हेने झालं पाहिजे. अँड देअर शुड बी सम काइंड ऑफ अ definitive conclusion which even the Supreme Court should give or other courts can also give, and there should be a mass movement on this. So आम्ही या बाबतीमध्ये असं म्हणू आजच्या निमित्तानं की आम्ही या बाबतीमध्ये फक्त आम्ही एकटेच नव्हे तर महाराष्ट्रामध्ये अनेक अशा तऱ्हेचे कॉन्ग्रॅच्युलेशन्स आहेत. लोकमोर्चा 2024 सारखे त्यांना आम्ही एकत्र करून इंडिया आघाडीच्या लोकांच्या सह एक आंदोलन उभं करण्याचा विचार आम्ही मधल्या काळामध्ये हे समजल्यानंतरच्या काळामध्ये केलेला आहे. तेव्हा या पत्रकार परिषदेमध्ये आम्ही असं जाहीर करू की या बाबतीमध्ये जर व्यवस्थित उत्तर मिळालं नाही आणि बनवाबनवीचा किंवा चुकवाचुकीचा प्रयत्न झाला किंवा विलंब लावण्याचा प्रयत्न झाला तर एक 15 दिवसाची वाट बघून आम्ही महाराष्ट्राची वेगवेगळ्या जनचळवळींची बैठक घेऊ. इंडिया आघाडीचे जेवढे त्यामध्ये येतील त्यांना बोलवू आणि यावर जन आंदोलन करायला आम्ही सुरुवात करू.
With the permission of all of you, I request my team to please just. Professor Harish Karnik had a selection committee meeting today at IIT Delhi. We have a sharper, nicely recorded video of him. If we can just show that, and then we can have whatever questions and discussions. Because I'm sure there are many things to discuss.
Good afternoon. My name is Harish Karnik. I'm a retired professor of computer science from IIT Kanpur. Firstly, I'm sorry that I cannot be present in person. I am one of the signatories to the notice that is being sent to the Election Commission. And I am here to essentially tell you why I signed that notice. I have been an academic for 40 years now, and I look upon the electoral system as a complete system, and I'm going to point out some kinds of problems that I saw as an academic. If I were to design that system, and I was to run that system, And the difference and the dominant insistence of the election commission on certain things which are fairly simple to agree to, and the lack of transparency in keeping data out to the general public and including candidates and so on. And the strange kinds of discrepancies that are there, makes me extremely uncomfortable. I am not claiming here because I do not have direct proof that there has been manipulation. I don't know whether there has been manipulation or not. But these series of actions of the election commission, make me very uncomfortable, and that's the main reason that I stand that particular notice, and I want to expand a little bit on that. First, disclaimer, I am not going to touch upon various other parts of the election process where there have been violations. There have been blatant violations of the model code of conduct. There has been voter suppression, both in the form of people not being on the electoral rolls, who should have been there, and intimidation on the day of voting when people who were trying to vote were not allowed to. There have been enough instances of that which have been recorded and have been very real kinds. I'm not going to touch on that here. I'm only going to concentrate on a small subsystem, which is the operational part of the election, which is the actual voting process, the counting process, and the transparency related to it, regarding the data, and also the discrepancies which are very strange, number one, and number two, absolutely no explanations regarding why they could have happened. I mean, okay, things can go wrong, and one of the things that one would like to do when things go wrong is to be open about it and say, okay, this is why this discrepancy has come about, and explain why it has happened in a detailed way. None of that has been done, and that is what worries me. Why is it that this kind of, the election is the core of the democratic process, and why is it that there is so much hesitancy to tell us what exactly went wrong? Looking first of all, let's look at a fundamental principle. I, as a voter, intend to vote for some candidate. My intention is recorded. Okay, I should be able to verify that record, and then that is the record which should be counted. That is an elementary, it's a fundamental principle, right? Now, why is it that there are two records? As a matter of fact, the VVPAT was introduced into this whole voting system precisely because of this language. And why is it now that you allow me to see for 7 seconds in the VVPAT box, and I don't know how many people are actually able to see it. I don't think there is any data or any empirical verification of how many actually people, how many voters, there are the religious people, there are the older people, and so on. How many of them actually verify that the slip contains whatever they have pressed? The name and the symbol that they voted for. Let's keep that aside for the moment. But there are 2 records. There's a record which I am supposed to have verified, which is what falls into the VVPAT, and there is a record which goes into the control unit, which is the vote recorded electronically. Now, which is my vote really? Okay? My vote, which I have verified, is the VVPAT slip. So why is it that the VVPAT slip is not counted? Why are we counting something between which there is a gap? Okay? And the moment there are gaps of this kind, they are liable to be exploited. Are they actually being exploited? I don't know. But they can be, and they are liable to be exploited. And therefore, it makes sense not to have it, because it violates the fundamental principle. I have verified the VVPAT slip, and you are counting That's very basic. Strangely, the Supreme Court also does not seem to have realized this. So, and the case that went on and on and on, and we have this complicated system of post-notification after counting of the writing chips and all that. And that is actually quite nonsensical. If you simply had a process which was cleaner, it would have been much easier to just count the VVPAT slips for this time. And there is a simple way in which you can actually improve the system and retain this principle. And that is just modify the VVPAT box, which is a minor modification, where instead of the VVPAT cell falling into the box, if this dispute comes out, the voter looks at it, verifies that everything is okay. Yes, it has printed the symbol and the name of the candidate which is validated, and then puts it in the VVPAT box himself or herself. So the entire chain then is clean. Then you count the VVPAT votes, and you can cross-check it with whatever is happening right now. No real change is needed except minor changes in the VVPAT box. And this will be a much cleaner system and much less liable to be exploited. Because kinds of hacks or whatever you want to call it, they will come impossible. They just don't exist. Okay? But for the longest of times, the election commission, and not just the current one, but even earlier, have kept on insisting the electronic vote. And there have been multiple Supreme Court cases on this, and the VVPAT system came in place, and all those things have happened. And the simple answer is count the VVPAT votes. Okay, it will take a little longer. If it takes 2 days to count them. But when you have an election going from the middle of March to the 1st of June, 2 days is not a lot of time. Plus, the principle of the thing is important. So that's the first thing. Why is the election commission so insistent on not counting the VVPAT slips? And there are minor things you can do. You can put barcodes on it so that the counting there is less error code, human error can be used. So you can just scan the barcodes. Each candidate has a unique barcode, and you can easily count that. So all this makes me feel extremely uncomfortable. Okay, so that's the first problem I have. The second problem is, of course, the way the whole thing went this time. Okay? We had this percentage numbers being given out in terms of how many people have actually voted. Okay? And these percentages are for the entire phase. Okay? Why is that the case? Why don't you tell me why you have to do that? You cannot calculate those percentages if you don't have the data. And it's clear that the booster data is available. As soon as the election is over, the voting is over, the presiding officer there with the booth, records things in a form 17C. And that information can be uploaded to the site, even using a mobile app. That's trivial. So the data is pretty much immediately available, and almost always the election commission release some kind of data in terms of percentages, at least in the first few phases of the election, saying this is the percentage of the vote. Okay? That percentage is for all the constituencies for the whole of that particular case. There's no data constituency wise, there's no data state wise.
There's a suggestion that we pause and have a discussion, because we can always provide the link to this. What would people say? But that is what because Professor Morris is there now. Whatever people suggest, it would go on for another 10 minutes otherwise. It's a long Sorry? We got his point, right? And he's talking about the same numbers that Professor Morris spoke. No, that's why he's requested that. So we'll share the links with everybody who's registered. Yeah. So let's have the discussion now. So I think I'll elaborate them during the discussion. Let's open it up to the listening. Any more details you need on the elaboration of numbers and all, one of us can come in. But I think we'd really like this to be participative and discussion, because honestly speaking, it is something that we all need to be, we all need to participate in if we are concerned about. So, we really open this up to questions, remarks, observations, questions, skepticism, whatever. जे प्रश्न विचारायला आपल्याला पाहिजे कारण म्हणजे आता फाइंडिंग्स आपले आहेत ते महत्त्वाचे आहेत. जे आकडे डॉक्टर प्यारेलाल गर्ग बसून काढलेले आहेत ते चंदीगडचे प्रोफेसर आहेत. त्यामधून 4 करोड 65 lakh vote increase totally is what his calculation is giving us. It's a statistically viable done calculation. आणि ते आकडे आपण पाहिले तो what we are seeing is 8 point something vote increase in Maharashtra, 12.52% increase in Odisha, 12.48% increase in Andhra Pradesh. असं करून करून आपले राज्यातील आपले आकडे आले आहेत ते आम्ही आपल्याला पाठवले. तर ते आकडे आपल्या समोर आले. आकडेबरोबर आम्ही काय केलं आम्ही म्हणजे डॉक्टर गांधी काय केलं स्टॅटिस्टिकल एक्सपर्टने काय केलं that was scientifically divided depending on the phases of votes and the seats in that phase in that state. Because we got the numbers we got from the election commission of phase wise. Then we arrive at these figures after a cumulative total of that, and then we come to 11 seats in Maharashtra. How do we come to the 11 seats? That's the question everybody's asking. How many numbers, I'll just borrow that later. How many numbers, because these numbers are something we can forget. What are the numbers we are getting for Maharashtra, for instance? We are getting a figure, I'll take Maharashtra because we are sitting in Maharashtra. Next. Maharashtra is the second highest state. The highest state in terms of seat increase is Odisha. Odisha, there's a 12.48% increase, which amounts to a 2.086 crore vote increase, if you look at actual numbers. And the formula was explained by Professor Morris, how that actual number was arrived at. Electors, phase, or PCR figures, number of electors in that state in that phase, number of the percentage given divided by 100, and then accordingly for the later figures. If this 2.086 crore votes is added in Odisha, that amounts to 42.01 lakh votes in the whole state. Now you come into this figure, and that figure for Maharashtra is 82.63 lakhs. म्हणजे जवळ 1 कोटी वोट आणखी इथे आपण 82 लाख वोट महाराष्ट्रात एक्स्ट्रा ऍड केलेले आहे. आता ते आकडा आमच्या जवळ आला, then what do you do? The only statistically viable way is because we don't know the mind of the people who've done it. We don't know why it has been done. We don't know what is the motive. Except broadly, the thesis we are applying is it is to benefit the NDA/BJP. So we divide it on average between the constituencies in that state. So that's the only rational way of doing it. And then in that division we come to what is the vote in first seat is 2 lakh votes in all 48 constituencies were increased by this downgrade, what we are calling downgrade. Then what we do is from these 48 seats, we take out those seats where the margin is less than this figure. And then we come to 11 seats. And those are the 11 seats that we have come to, which are all official figures. We'd like to open this up for discussion.
We don't have the form C17 of all these states, right? That wasn't available.
They have not made it available. They told the Supreme Court, as you know, that it would, by making it available, it will endanger their own security. Whereas actually that 17C form has 3 copies, as you know. 1 copy is with the candidate, supposed to be with the candidate under law, which was not given. Our calculation is in 65% of the cases it was not given. Not given. Only 35% of the people who were really alert. DMK actually put all their 17C on social media, saying we've collected it and here it is. But honestly speaking, at the end of the day, what we feel is before this election, there was never this degree of suspicion and breakdown of trust. There was a feeling in 2019 also, but it had not reached this level. I would even go to argue, and it's a polemical argument, that emergency after it was lifted in 1977. I was 16 and a half, 15 and a half then. We campaigned at that time for the Janata Party. There were all sorts of issues with the emergency, but nobody suspected the conduct of the election commission even that time. And the election was free and fair, and the Janata Party was swept apart. So this degree of failure of trust is coming out for the first time. So then you assume, why have you done it and how have they done it? So 17C, to answer your question, the form is not available anywhere. So the only way to do it is through this kind of a numerical exercise. We also have a table in the report which actually lists out the seats, the names of the seats, but that is also interesting everybody. So that also table we make available. That which are the seats in various states that we are talking. Because most of us know which are the states in Maharashtra. Because all of us, whether it's Lok Morcha, for Maharashtra I'd like to share actually. Akola, where the BJP won by a mere 40,626 votes. Satara, where the BJP won by just 32,771 votes. Ratnagiri Sindhudurg, where I think Satish and others worked a lot, where the BJP won by 47,858 votes. Buldana, where Eknath Shinde Shiv Sena won by 29,479 votes. Mumbai Northwest, my constituency, where Eknath Shinde won by 48 votes. I mean, that's one of the scandals of this election. Because even the conduct of the returning officer on the day of polling, not just counting, was shocking. Because the round by round votes were not announced. Without any explanation, his postal votes were declared invalid. And many procedural and legal errors happened by counting, and now he's filed an election petition in the Bombay High Court for this one. Mawar, where Shiv Sena Shinde won by 96,615 votes. Akkangeli, where Shiv Sena Shinde won by 13,426 votes. Raigad, Pune, Aurangabad, Nagpur. These are the 11 seats. But let's have the questions.
What is the number that India won against NDA in Maharashtra?
31 now to 48.
So if you add 11 to that, then it becomes almost total sweep.
It seems that wherever it was a big majority, they couldn't do this. But there was a marginal majority. They could and tried to do it and were successful.
But how do we come to the conclusion that all these 11 seats, that those seats which the BJP has or the BJP alliance have, which could be the seats which have been won by say NCP, Sharad Pawar or UBT or Congress as well, right?
If you argue, I mean, see, we are tracking it like this. The thesis is that the election commission is doing it with an intention, because it hasn't happened before, right? Normally there should be a 1% increase, and now it is this thing. Why are they not answering questions as to why there is such a big increase? They are not answering any questions. There have been repeated questions. That why is there 8.42% increase? Why is there 3% increase? Why is there 6% increase? Because there were news reports even during the election that there are so many lakh votes extra, so many. It's not the first time yet, but the actual figure they are coming. So we are assuming that this was done because of the manner in which the election commission was appointed to favor the vote. That is the assumption.
See, technically, the election commission have time-wise. So let's imagine that the information constituency-wise came with such a delay. What is the explanation that the information about
That's
the
what I
voting?
made that mistake myself.
Yeah, the information about the voting, what has been the votes cast, who has got what, and so on, and how many nota was there, etc., came to the central office with the land. Okay? Surely they have a record of that vote. Okay? Now, if the record of that land is examined and seen, and if it's completely, random as expected, then there is no problem actually. But the point is, why is the election commission completely silent on it? Okay, this is the big question. Why is it completely silent? Perhaps because if it reveals the exact, sequence in which it came, and perhaps there was nothing of that kind which came. Perhaps it was something completely different, and therefore it's unlikely to sit. But the point is that that intent, okay, is what it is, and based on that intent, if you work backwards, then these are the seat implications. Okay? And the intent is revealed in so many ways. I think the most important intent is what Arnik was trying to say. Look at it like this. Reverse the problem. We are all asking that EVMs and that VVPAT should be counted. Now look at it from this point of view. Anyway is doing both. Why not reveal both? If your EVMs are so great, why not reveal the other one? Let it be tested. Show me one test of falsifiability which the election commission has accepted. See, scientists know that a theory stands up because it is not yet falsified. You can't run for confirmation. Okay? You get the point? So here is something which we are proposing is highly suspicious. Get us out of it. Give us the assurance that it is not so by revealing the information.
Even now, there are two forms, right? 17A and 17C. Any candidate who has contested, 17A is a roll call form. It's called the roll call form. And when you enter the booth, our names are taken and signatures taken. To reveal, put up all the data of 17A and 17C. There will be silly people like us who sit and examine it. And we'll find out whether we were wrong. And we'll be happy to say that only this was a mistake. But honestly speaking, if you're going to be refusing to divulge any data or the reason for this absolutely staggering increase, and nobody can deny it's a staggering increase, then certain questions will remain. I just want to add one more thing to this. Because this has been bothering me since we came up with these figures. As I mentioned earlier, there's a figure of 4.91 crores for Maharashtra. I'm sticking with Maharashtra because we are in Maharashtra. That is the most interesting. And this divided becomes 1.72 lakh per 48. If you divide by 48 per constituent. Now if you multiply 1.72 lakh by 11, the 11 that we have come up with, that comes to roughly 18 lakhs, 17 lakhs. The figure we have for Maharashtra is 4.91 crores. So what happened to the rest? It means the margins of India would have been much higher. What do we make for the rest? 4.9. I don't know. I mean, we can't leave it like that. A figure like this cannot be just left hanging in the air like that. You tell us that this is completely bogus way of doing it. It's not the correct way. Statistically not viable. This is the way of doing it. But tell us, like Professor Morris is saying, this is the real reason why there was this percentage increase. It doesn't amount to so much. Because I mean, I can't go on and on because this we didn't, but I'll tell you, even in the EVM, even in the votes where this is what also our report had, because we've got at least 50 tables in the report, which is what I request all of you to go through. That even in the EVM votes as cast and EVM votes as recovered, there are only 4 constituencies where there is no discrepancy. Please understand what I'm saying. The point that Professor Morris is making about EVM. That the EVM votes cast and EVM votes recovered, that is counted, is known as recovered because you recover and then you count because it's a machine. There are only 4 and those are the Lakshadweep, Daman and Diu, this thing. Baki Sagra problem hai. From 1 to 4,000 or 4,000 to 18,000. How do you explain this? And in 169 constituencies out of 542, because Surat did not even want to hold an election. They declared such a hurry to declare victory that they just said that only 542. 169, 1/3 of the seats, the margin is only 10,000 margin of victory. So I mean there are lots and lots of other stuff in this report which if you go through will raise even more questions. Unfortunately we can't go through all of that here. But vote टाकून तुम्ही केलं काय ते votaबद्दल? Did you want to do it to show that you are winning or you were not sure you are winning, you were nervous about the margins have reduced? I don't know. Yeah, sorry.
You had a question, sir?
Yeah, please.
Just said that the board polled about differences there. We all know that differences there. But
Please share.
what is the thing? I done study on Thane. Okay. So difference was
Devasana says so.
Sir, no, can you wait, sir? 1 minute. Somebody is raising a question. You'll have to give us 5 minutes, sir. Please, no.
Yeah. So the difference was 1767 votes as per the ECM form number 17C and the counted votes. But when I did the research of the form number 17C, the difference 50 votes. Again, I did that to the Varshnai Gaikwad. Okay, there was also a difference of 1 vote. But when I tried to match the 17C collected from our polling agents and the counting agents, the difference was 0.
See the point.
But yesterday only, on the 19th, we have filed the complaint to the ECI for the Thane Lok Sabha. We found that there are 85,555 bogus votes with the same name, but I myself a voter of Thane, consider me, okay? मेरा नाम एक बूथ पे है और दूसरे बूथ पे भी है. So when we start digging into the data, we don't find anything. That's what I'm talking about.
No, but you cannot deny that the declaration of total votes was done after 5 to 11 days.
He's not, he's making a different point.
Wait.
He's adding to it.
Huh?
He's adding one more point. He's not disputing it.
What I'm saying is that this can happen in any, could happen in any case. But the main point doesn't get violated. That's what I'm saying.
And you I'm worried, that's why I'm
No, but sir,
But there is also one point.
okay.
The Thane Lok Sabha, I give training to the counting agents. When I check the PET time, whole end time, which machine shows during the counting. PET time was 17:05, 17:11. That's when polling machines were closed before the guidelines set by the Election Commission of India. That is also a very major point. 45 minutes prior, 1 hour prior. So what they were doing
At that time,
in that 1 hour,
No, sir, that in fact is.
and we check the battery also. Since we gave the training, our counting agents were very alert.
Yeah.
So what happened, what was our finding, on the maximum machines in the northeast, battery percentage was 65, 60, 55, 75. But in Thane, battery percentage was 99, 90%. So 12 घंटा मशीन चली है वहाँ पे. उसके बाद भी आपका 99% बैटरी परसेंटेज क्यों है? Even the battery is very much new. The battery is manufactured in 2023. The problem is, since I have been very thoroughly part of this election process, first FLC is done by PHEL. During second FLCs, the PHEL engineers come to the constituency and they do the programming. The access to that program is not given with the election commission of India. That access to the source code, when you load the candidates in the EVM machine, candidate should have access to that source code. Then only you can say that yeah, EVM is functioning properly.
Yeah, right. Can I ask you to think of something else? See, the point is, you could, if I am given an opportunity and I want to cheat, I can devise an EVM system with merely changing 10 lines of code, okay, in which I will be able to give a 5% advantage in favor of the government, okay, let us say, or party A, and nobody will be able to find that out. Okay? Your FLCs, first level checks, your mock polls, none of them will believe it. And I'll tell you how. Let's say the bias is built in by working on ECIL, EIL, DAL, or by the vendor who supplies the compiler, or by the guy who compiles or whatever. It's a very easy thing. I mean, for people who have done the kind of things, to get one guy to fall or to do it is not difficult. I can do that. Okay? Now, what's the functionality of the code? The functionality is like this, that if it is queried on the day of the election, maybe a day later, that means if the counting takes place 1 day later, it reveals the correct thing. Correct? Right? So all your FLCs, all your mock polling will always reveal correct things. However, if it is asked, if the counting is done, okay, let's say 7 days, 5 days later, because there is a clock, there is a conditional transfer of votes, such that it will reveal in favor. You get the point? So the fact that the EVM EVM 3, M3 as a clock opens the door to a very simple way of corrupting a machine. Okay, the earlier machines did not have it, it was more difficult. There also I tell you how it can be done. Okay? But the point is it's much more difficult. This becomes extraordinarily easy. So this is one. So that's why I'm really questioning, why the hell does the ECI want to count after having closed down the polls only 5 days later, only 4 days later? What does it want to do with the machine sitting in the corner? Okay. Two possibilities. One is that it has control over them in a biased way, or that it does not want the machines to reveal that they are being screwed up. Okay. You get the point? Did you understand what I said?
How do you expect it to be back? The random selection.
No, that is the whole point. You are saying that the identity is random, right? But the SLU has the symbols. Okay? And the VVPAT is connected to the control unit as the EC himself says. It's only a serial port, and there are two-way serial communication. The VVPAT is supposed to communicate vote by vote the number of the candidate, right? So my sense is a 3-digit note will cover any number of candidates. Okay? What if it communicates a 4-digit code and the first digit tells you who the candidate is? It has to be within the first 9, that's all. Correct? Have you gone and checked what the communication protocol is? Has the ECI revealed the communication protocol? It hasn't. Okay? That's the corruption through the VVPAT. Okay? Which is a firm corruption. But that will have to happen election by election with the SLU being corrupted. I'll tell you an easier method. Let's say that there is a bug already in the program. The bug looks for, and that bug is already implemented. But the bug is such that if normal voting takes place, so that there is a random coming of people, nothing will happen. But if a party puts its workers up front, and the first 5 votes on every machine, or the first 3 out of 5 votes on every machine comes from party A, then the bug recognizes that the votes which are cast, let us say in favor of the third candidate, is the favored candidate. Once it knows that, there is just that information it needs. The bug, on the day after 5 days have passed, if it is queried, it will reveal the bias results. If it is queried within 5 days, it may not be. So there are so many ways of corruption. Okay? And the only way that any electronics engineer will tell you is by having parallel processes. They have talked about EVM hacking. See, the problem is not a hacking. The problem is of purposeful at source possibility of corruption. Correct? It's like saying that I am a commercial entity, I run a company, there is a problem I face. My machines and so on can be hacked. So I need to protect myself against it. Because otherwise I lose my property right. But if I want to cheat, there is nothing in the world that stops me. Okay? So the problem can never be of hacking. The problem is of implant, okay, of a misfunctionality being put in. And does the processes of the ECI, of the BEL and so on give any confidence that such a thing could never happen? Nothing. Today when things are happening in terms of the seats and medical seats and everything being corrupted, what are we talking about? Okay, convince us that you guys haven't planted us up on the road. Okay, I'm saying you could have planted. Show me how I'm wrong. Okay.
NET is also constitutional. Sorry, UPSC is also constitutional. Sorry. I think Mr. Devashan wants to say something. Yes, sir. Mr. Devashan?
You're properly audible.
No, sir, your voice is very muffled. I think you have to be closer to the mic. That's why we are not able to get you completely.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'll just make one point. See, all these are technical arguments. We are not talking about technical arguments. As I mentioned earlier, we are talking about democracy arguments. And it's a democracy principle. The question here is that, see, as I said in the opening remarks, that we are providing circumstantial evidence. Direct evidence has to come through investigation. That only can be authorized by the Election Commission of India or the Supreme Court. We are demanding, I'll tell you a small instance. 80 days it took the entire election operation took 80 days. Why are we in a tearing hurry to complete the counting process in 8 hours time? Because at the end of the day, there are several processes in the election, as you all know. Counting is the most important. Counting, as you repeating of the myself. You count it and then declare the result, sign the certificate, period. Over. They will take just 8 hours for that, whereas they will take 80 days for me. Suspicion number 1. Number 2, regarding 17, form 17. 17 see, even if it matches, somebody mentioned that it matched. This time the suspicion is Mark says furious injection of votes. That's why I was laboring hard. Professor Kaming also in his presentation said this. End-to-end verification. Election Commission has gone out of the way to prevent the end-to-end verification. Even telling lies before the Supreme Court. We will not have end-to-end verification. We require to be only a copy. Why? Why? And what would have happened is, switching of mediums would have happened. Furious injection of votes has happened. I'll tell you why. Suspecting all this, we planted a candidate in Rampur, Uttar Pradesh, a senior advocate of the Supreme Court, Babu Pracha. And he has from the very beginning documented and has got the recordings and replied everything. He said, the election commission only argument for the Supreme Court is very, very. We got beautiful executives, we got beautiful, manuals, we got beautiful rules, regulations. He says nothing has been followed. Nothing has been followed except some conscientious returning officers. Others don't follow at all. Most of the procedures are violated. The point I am taking is a massive country like this, all these are quite possible. So, when we are talking about end-to-end verification, only are you denying? So this time, we have been able to locate this massive sort of pumping of votes. Earlier, the institute says paper ballot for booth captain. Booth captain हो जाता है booth captain and booth captain only 100 votes, 200 votes, more than you can cast. Here you can do constituency capture to lakhs of votes. That is what we suspect has happened. And 80 constituencies, there is this is their circumstantial evidence. Will the Election Commission of India going for a regular investigation, inquiry, technical committee, combined? Will they do that? If they are not doing it, they are accepted. So that's important. The election has to be seasons wide. Should be above doubt. Not only but electoral process must be beyond doubt. Then you trust us. Today, the trust level of election commission is 28 less than 25%. Supreme Court orders make no difference. Trust is not order, just clear. That's the one that we are trying to do.
Thank you, sir. Any more discussion points, questions? Please.
One way of ensuring that voters are let out is to have an on-the-spot registration form on the election, or another option is as right now in the US, is to have an automatic registration of voters. And to also, and one more thing, to prevent the wrong vote for Indian EM, increase the security of the Aadhaar card or the election card, showing the iris scan and the birthmark also.
Yeah, that's a separate issue.
Yeah. See what you are saying here assumes the following. We are talking about more bigger problem. Let us say the voting administrators and so on are fair. Okay. So the administrative process is fair and the machines are fair, etc. Or whatever, you have a paper ballot. And if some people want to fraud, okay, then what you are saying is very important. So that's okay. What we are saying is that the process itself has not been fair. The very people who are conducting the poll, namely the election commission, may not have been fair. And there are too many circumstantial evidences. So if the election commission wants things to be fair, then people acting in ways that are faulty or they should not is a problem that can be actually controlled. That is not where the problem.
So then the solution is, if we can get justice in the country, you have to file against the ICC and the hey, solve the election.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to also mention another thing because I just suddenly remembered Father Fraser and was sitting here. You know, there's also the other issue which we have not dealt with here at all in detail, not even in the report. But it remains a standard in this country when it comes to voter registration of marginalized communities, okay? And in relation to that, I just wanted to flag this issue. There's also people here in the audience who work very, very closely with groups in Karnataka and others where there were 4 lakh, 8 lakh, 1 crore votes missing from the rolls. That issue is not even dealt with today. And we, at least 8 or 6, 7 or 8 member delegation, we met, I think, the CEO of Maharashtra no less than 2 or 3 times on this question that why are our names not there, the particular names not there. We were told something on the penultimate time that don't worry, the day of voting they can go there. You remember, Father, we went there, and there is something called there will be a table at every booth for the missing voter. And there and then, if you have your previous election card, if you have your election card, which will show that you voted in the previous election, then there and then they will rectify and you allow it. Remember, they told us.
Nothing happens.
Repeatedly we were told this, and this just did not happen, it did not work. So we have not even touched this issue here as to how many Indians wanting to be enrolled are still not enrolled by the Election Commission. So I think this whole aura that the Election Commission is giving itself, everybody has the, under Article 326 at the Universal Adult Franchise, but many people are not registered, despite making efforts to get registered. And I don't see Election Commission officials coming repeatedly 24/7, 365 days to try and register voters. I don't think they are concerned about that at all. So I think they were, as Mr. Devasam said right in the beginning, they're just leaving it to the, not just to the admin, I think they've subcontracted it now to agencies. Raigad, Satish was telling me there are some private agencies who are doing it. So it's not a constitutionally mandated body that is undertaking the task proudly to say that every Indian must have the right to vote under Article 326.
On the contrary, one more contrast is that some say 50, around 50 lakh or more voters are voting in Mumbai as well as in their villages. So that is a contrast to this what she is saying. So these are two extremes.
Average voting voters increase percentage is 3% as per our study. In Thane Lok Sabha, in this matter of 1 month, the last EP, which was the supplementary, the voting increase was like more than 40%. 60,000 new voters were registered just in a month.
Thane is a favored
And in the same, for example, there is one vote, okay, that's one vote, I think one is a vote. The same vote in supplementary, I have registered twice.
same group.
We have 85,000 such cases.
But Thane has been as a favored constituency.
From
I only say
2023,
that.
what election commission has started on the EP, earlier they used to publish once in a year, that was in the January. Now they are publishing the electoral roll every 3 months. And that, what happens now, what they give to the candidate, the electoral roll, they gave during election. During election also now they are publishing the supplementary voting list. And that we do not have access. And on the supplementary voting list, you cannot do anything, you cannot take the vote. If election commission want to delete But if you want to register, you have to go at least once to the office to get registered. This is what I feel like in 19th last Friday, I guess, we submitted all this data to the Thane Collectorate. Now what I was finding is that this is the very burning issue in the election, the bogus voting, and it happens.
See,
We have called many people in Thane, and now this is the major issue: deletion of voters. Now there is also one more practice. What they do on a certain areas of particular constituencies, assembly constituencies, they transfer your polling station very far from your location.
No, I guarantee.
These are like, this is very, what I say, this is very frequent now.
Yeah. So Yatinji, we are not at all saying that that's not a legitimate concern. That is also a major concern, like Bharatji himself said about people voting in two places and all. But this is a very specific thing that has been found for this election, which is also serious, no less serious, is what I'm saying. I mean, in Thane you might have found that, and you must work on it without question, because anything which is injecting of irregular votes is the wrong thing. But this is no less important, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's both things that need to be covered.
Mr. Devasai rightly said that now we are not talking much about the technicalities. Okay? The whole issue is about answerability of the election commission to answer about the manipulation and what you have given the figure. They have to explain about the hold down raise approach. Ever since EVM has come, it looks like the democratic right has become more technical instead of making it very easy for a voter. So my question is that ultimately you have raised two things. That is by Mr. Dolphin, this is the vote for democracy on behalf of all the citizens. That's very nice of you, and also Bharat Patel Lok Morcha Maharashtra. Actually, this should have been taken by all the political parties together. So I'm very happy that looking no response from them, at least you people have come and we are supporting you for this cause. At the end, you have asked two questions. One is that the report which you have just now circulated, that you have asked that ECI, Election Commission of India, in taking action against the political parties during the MCC period, number one, has the independent investigation under autonomous supervision into all aspects of this given us is the need of the hour. So, on 19th, I think July, you have given this to Election Commission of India, hardly 4 days. So we will wait for some more time. What do you think that whether it will be really taken into consideration on the serious note of it, and will they put up the investigation under the autonomous supervision, and whom do you think the autonomous supervision body will be? Number one. And is there, you are challenging that you do not, from the people do not want to have EVMs, so that something which used to be the traditional voting would be better, though it will be a bit lengthy, but people will have heard that somebody was saying that they are physically cast to vote. They have a satisfaction, no matter it will go as invalid vote or something. Their satisfaction will be there, and instead of waiting for the giving card and directly and into all this battery has gone, this one and that, it's too technical. People were giving lots of training. After a lot of training, I think you people understand the whole process. And the common man will not understand if it was so easy. There was no need for that type of training at all. So what I feel, and what about the parties? Like Congress Party and India Alliance, have they declared that they do not want EVM type process to happen? They want elections, fair and fearless election as it used to happen, manual ballot.
I think almost all parties other than the BJP, and that also officially, have expressed discomfort with the Indian system, and for good reason. All of them have expressed it. How far they have acted on it, that's a different matter. How far they have pursued. They also are helpless. I won't say they are helpless unless they come out onto the board. But most of their arguments have been cheated by being dismissed, including by the Supreme Court, which have had better sense. Okay? Unfortunately, I must say this, that one of the arguments which was made by people against the EVM, they started by saying that they trust the election commission. Okay? They should not have said that. Okay? See, the point is, it's not a question of trust. Okay? I want something which is trustworthy because of the safeguards which are there. Technological, organizational, but most importantly, in terms of independence from the government. Because remember, who has the highest incentive to influence and who can? Not some party which is not in power, but the party which is in power. The state government level. And so that is the key issue. And you don't find that, being enhanced at all. It has deteriorated greatly.
I just want to add one more point to this, in response to this, is that let's be very, very clear about one thing, is that whether it is Akhilesh Yadav, what he said about EVMs in Parliament, he said even if I won all 80 seats, I still won't have faith in the EVM. He's on record saying that. Or what Mr. Kalyan Banerjee of the PMC said, or Manoj Jha, about giving a complaint during the first phase of election and receiving an answer from Election Commission after 10th of June. So this is how serious they are about responding to the opposition. Or what Ms. Mahua Moitra said, that we won in spite of the Election Commission, not because of it. I'm quoting these to say that there have been serious issues on this election raised in Parliament. We are raising this not as political. We reached out to all political parties to come today because it's in our interest that this is taken forward. So we are not ashamed of it. We are thankful for you for coming here. But we also want to express that we are doing it as independent citizens. We are voting for a certain land today, we might vote against other lands tomorrow. That's not the point. The point is but we also have a hope. I refer with Professor Morris slightly. We have a hope in the opposition that it's a bit more consistent on this issue. Because I feel that somehow or the other they are not very consistent on this issue. I mean, everybody has their own priorities, we realize that, but unless you have a consistent approach on the autonomy, functioning, accountability and transparency of the Election Commission as the political opposition, it cannot be just at election time. It has to be all the time. And the issues that are raised in the report are at least 50, 60 issues, not one. But the most glaring one is this percentage increase. So even if you begin there or you begin somewhere else, it needs to be actually fought vocally by the political opposition. We are hoping, but we are not sure that